Hey guys, just a quick note from the editor Ephram here. I realize that there are kinks to be worked out with the audio, to say the very least, and that this episode may well resemble an over-hour-long shitpost. But it is my first time recording a podcast, so I would like everyone to please be very nice to me, as well as my good friend Jake. With that being said, I hope you enjoy the first edition of Jews with No Money. Hey, what's up? I'm Ephram. You're not gonna say your name?
I don't want to be associated fully. My name is Arthur Chase. For the sake
Arthur
of this video,
Chase.
you can call me Jake. It's what I commonly go as usually.
I
Just
was expecting there to be a punchline with your name,
no
but that just seems
punchline.
like
I
just a
just don't want to be
British
fully associated.
sounding
I
name.
never thought I'd sink to this level.
Yeah, we are doing a podcast.
I haven't killed myself yet, so what the fuck,
Well, that was on your 2024 goals. If
that
alive,
was
either
on my
kill yourself
2024 goal list.
or
It
start a
was
podcast.
It was 2020 to 2021. I was fuck it, we ball. 2022 was, and 2023 was fully develop my brain. And 2024 was kill self or start podcast. And I said,
Podcast as opposed to a podcast.
yeah, it's
Can you explain
it's about pigs.
about pigs? Speaking of pigs, one of our movies is about a zoo. Did you like that segue?
Oh, that was.
Yeah. Okay, so I should probably actually name the podcast and what the fuck we're doing first.
What are we doing? What are any of
I
us
don't know.
doing, man?
It's a little too early to get existential, buddy. I'm gonna start crying.
I don't want
So
you to
this
get
is
emotional.
well, I can't help but get emotional because we're talking about two Matt Damon movies. It's Matt Damon Monday.
Yes.
Hi, does an Arthur Reed live here?
You're Matt Damon.
Whichever day this gets posted, I don't care. It's Matt Damon Monday.
It's Matt
going in
Damon
the
fucking
calendar.
Monday, baby.
Yeah, it's a national holiday.
That's a national icon, Matt Damon. He's the star
Right.
of The Martian.
Yeah, what else was he in?
He was
these
in,
two movies. Okay. So this is a podcast called Jews with No Money, hosted by me, Ephram, my friend Jake. We are going to be talking about, as the title implies, not movies about Jewish people, but movies
Though
that
we will
cost...
sometime.
Yeah,
that will
I guess,
happen. That is a promise.
Yes. We try to keep it within a mid to low budget range, so not over $50 million. But we're not adjusting for inflation because math is stupid for dorks. So that's right. According to my logic, 1977's indie classic Star Wars can be discussed on the podcast.
We're not going to. No, we're not doing that.
But it can. But it could.
It hypothetically could.
Right. And we will break this rule when we feel like it, I guess.
Yeah. I don't think if the movie is just so pure, so filled with juice, if it's such a juicy movie, we just gotta let it slide, you know what I mean?
All right. You're making me a little aroused, so
all right.
slow down.
Last thing I'd want is for you to get aroused in front of all three of these people.
But before we get into the movies, it's this big ticket news item that Jake has a lot of opinions about. He's a political science aficionado, you could say.
Yeah,
I do. You want to explain?
I do politics a lot. What can I say? I'm just.
How many did you do today?
I did like 3 politics today. Last Thursday I did like 14 politics. It was just...
I'm surprised you didn't do more today, because this is kind of a big...
Well, all I can think about is how Joe Biden, for the first time in over 50 years, has gone full Nixon on us. He's in his room thinking about his entire life. He's thinking about Hunter smoking that crack out there somewhere.
He could do the funniest thing ever right now.
Oliver Stone, if you are listening to this, fucking gold ticket, baby. I think the very pinnacle big piece of this juicy politics cake is that Joe Biden did this like mere hours after Hillary Clinton endorsed him to keep going.
He was like, oh, shit. Oh, I don't want that. Okay. When you're
Hillary,
when you're getting advocated for by losers, oh man, that's not a good sign. I've of two minds on this personally. I mean, I don't love the idea of decrepit white guys always running to the grave. On the other hand, I'm not sure that the K-Hive is strong enough, but I would love to be proven wrong, I guess.
And
What's
I
the
think I
Jake
have
take?
the biggest question of all, man.
What?
I have a very big question about this.
What?
What does this have to do with Talented Mr. Ripley and We Bought a Zoo?
That's an interesting question. I wonder if I can make a connection. Joe Biden is spoilers ahead. Spoilers ahead for both movies. I would say Joe Biden is the Jude Law and where the Democratic Party is the Tom Ripley. He's been absolutely cucked. I don't know. They were on that boat. They thought they were friends, but boom. Turns out DNC doesn't fuck with them.
I think we're dancing around the real question.
Yeah.
And everyone thinks of the one scene in Talented Mr. Ripley when you say the movie. And the biggest question is, Ephram, would you do that to me?
Okay, so you are confirming that I am Tom Ripley in this situation. I want to be
Yes.
you, and I want to kill you, but I
I
also
don't think you want to
kind of
be
want to
me. I
be
think you just have a
gay with
lust to
you.
kill me. And if you were in this situation, you would definitely take the chance.
I mean, I'm not so sure.
You're scary,
know.
man. If
I'm
I
scary?
snap, it'll just be very comical. If you snap, I'll get scared.
Yeah. I guess. I don't know.
You don't want to mess with
You
a
might not
Jew with
like
no
me when
money.
I'm angry, I guess. So I chose these movies because Jake has seen neither of them, and they both have Matt Damon. A Talented Mr. Ripley I watched for the first time about 2 years ago. It was an Ephram Dad recommendation for short. But I don't know. I was quite taken with it when I saw it back in the day. It seemed like something that I thought Jake would find interesting, at the very least. It is probably my favorite Matt Damon performance as of recording. I haven't seen all of his movies.
You haven't seen every single Matt Damon movie?
I have not seen the classic The Adjustment Bureau, so I want to hold off on saying it's the best Matt Damon. But
Are you sure you want our moms and Dahlia to know that?
you think Janice is listening?
I don't think my mom is listening. That was wishful thinking.
But yeah, I think there's a lot of things to be brought up with this movie, but I kind of just want to get your initial thoughts before I go into my research and maybe argument if you make me mad and say mean things.
I'm gonna make you mad?
I mean, maybe. I don't know. Let's see. What's the Jake take? What's the initial reaction?
Before our very first Jake take, I would just like to let you know that I'm a very stupid man. But beyond that, I'm also a very simple man. Not like Karsten Runquist simple, where it's like kind of dumb and there's like a million words.
Oh,
Really
first
anything.
fucking YouTuber beef on the podcast. Oh,
You can edit that out if you want, but
no, we're keeping
enough
in.
with
This is the stance.
enough with the malarkey.
You're blocked by him on Twitter. It's already out there.
Oh, you didn't need to tell him.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't do anything bad. I would like to clarify. I just posted a picture of saying, "Is this too much to ask for?" And it's a couple in bed watching Karsten Runquist roasting letterbox reviews. I assume Karsten got mad because he saw the sight of a couple.
So anyway, your point.
Talented Mr. Ripley? Pretty cool.
Pretty cool.
It's pretty cool. I liked it. It's a 90s movie. Got some of that 90s filmmaking, which some will love, some will be like, eh. But you know what? I think Jude Law really deserved to get killed. He was fucking annoying as shit.
So you're firmly in the pro Ripley camp. You don't
I am
think
in the
he did
pro
anything
Ripley
wrong.
camp. Ripley is a hustler.
Right? I mean,
He did what he had to do.
Subjectively true. He's like worst case scenario, Catch Me If You Can.
He really
took
is.
it to the extreme. It's
This is a very naughty Catch Me If You Can.
I don't know. I guess Catch Me If You Can was mostly true. But I kind of hope that Talented Mr. Ripley isn't true, because there are a lot of what I like about this. There are a lot of moving parts. For me personally, I think there's a lot of interesting subtext, and there's a lot of layers to its sort of class commentary, queer subtext a little bit, and just like how it operates as a thriller. the director, it's kind of interesting because I don't think anyone would consider him one of those, big auteurs. I have not seen his other movies, but I'm assuming that The English Patient wouldn't really knock my socks off.
I know. I was about to say I am very sorry if there's any gunners for the English Patient out there.
Yeah. But I think this seems like a really odd sort of passion project. I mean, the book is from like it's in somewhere in the early 50s, I think.
I think
so it's interesting.
did the book take place like when it was written? Because I
Yeah,
know Ripley
this
takes place
movie.
in like the late 50s or something. I
Yeah,
was wondering if
this set it back in the past. I was curious about that too when I first watched. I didn't know if they were gonna update it, but I think for this type of thriller, it's kind of hard to update it because there's so many. This could not really happen today because there's so much technology out there. There's so many I don't want to get conspiratorial, but the government knows
this
your
movie
face.
can't happen in the modern day
It's
because
true.
of
No,
those goddamn technologies.
I mean it's like
You can't
I mean the
steal
whole
identities like we used to, man.
yeah. I mean you really can't. The government knows your face. You can't scratch it off on a document or pretend to be someone else around one police officer, and then and even in the movie it's really a tightrope that he's walking. So yeah, it would be portrayed very differently today. I think it was portrayed somewhat differently in the book even. In the movie, I think the key choice that the director makes that I think is interesting is that he sort of frames Matt Damon as a little more sympathetic than the book seemed to. Like on that scene, the scene that everybody talks about with Jude Law, it doesn't really seem like it's like a premeditated thing. In the book, it seems like, oh, this is a scheme his entire time. He has it all planned out. In this movie, I think Matt Damon is great casting because he has that vulnerability and he just has that look of like, I don't really know what I'm doing. He's like good about certain things, but he really does seem like he's just fine by the seat of his pants and he doesn't really intend to commit a crime in the first place, but he's just quick to cover it up, sort of. So, he's a hustler, but he's got a heart of gold. That's why we love him. That's why we
Yeah, he's
idolize him.
tinted. You just do what you got to
True.
do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, who's the guy who kills me? A British guy? I mean, come on.
Hey, Jude Law in this one is doing a pretty decent American accent. So he's not British.
Yeah, speaking of American accent, Kate Blanchett does a better American accent than me, and I live here. Her American accent is
you
perfect.
can forget that. She's not American. Did you know Kate Blanchett is an original creation of the movie? She is not in the book. Which I did not know when I first watched the movie, but you can kind of see it. Kind of
She wasn't in.
concern at the beginning. She's gone for a while.
She wasn't in the French New Wave film.
I'm not sure. That is another thing that our audience may not know, and I did not know when I first watched the movie. There are like 5 or 6 Ripley movies. They're not like
One of them,
connected.
I think, maybe 2 of them. 2 of them, he's played by like John Malkovich.
Yeah, I think he is played by John Malkovich. There's a new Netflix show that I haven't watched where he's played by Andrew Scott. That's adapting this.
My father Leo watched the new one, and he said it quote unquote stunk.
Okay.
So I guess
Maybe...
it's not prime dad TV.
All right. It looked kind of neat to me, but I must confess I feel like it would be hard for me to watch the other ones after this one because I would just be kind of comparing how they treat the exact same material. Because there are like 3 or 4 things that adapted this and then there's one that adapts like the second one, and then the third one, and I don't think anybody bothered with the 4th and 5th one besides like BBC Radio. But it's kind of an interesting, I don't know, James Bond like series where they just like every once in a while we're like, hey, let's adapt this book. Let's put sort of weird, I don't know, up and coming actor in it. Matt Damon only had a few sort of notable roles for this. He was still up and comer. I don't think anyone could have predicted that one of his first roles would be like just an insane guy. So I do think they kind of wrote the script around his persona a little bit because I don't think anybody can believe that Matt Damon went there with purely malicious intent. But I think they can believe that Matt Damon, was led through certain circumstances to extreme actions. not to justify them, in my opinion. Jake thinks they're cool, but
That's a movie. What are you gonna do? It's not real.
I don't know. Could be. It was based on a real.
You know what?
Story.
His name was Dickie Greenleaf. He had to go.
Dickie. I'm a fan of the character of Dickie Greenleaf. And I'm talking about Dickie Greenleaf as played by Jude Law, not Dickie Greenleaf as impersonated by Matthew Damon. I think, I don't know, this might just genuinely be my favorite Jude Law performance. He's really great here. I think he portrays this sort of vaguely condescending, rich playboy air about him very well. But I don't know. I personally couldn't hate him when I watched this movie. Even when he's sleeping around, cheating on Gwyneth Paltrow, and just having very basic sort of taste in jazz. When you meet his father in the movie, you can kind of get why he would want to distance himself.
Probably because he had a bunch of money.
Yeah. Well, there's
Dickie Greenleaf hated working. He got all of his money from his pops.
That is true. He
Ripley
really
was right on the boat. He says, "You are not. You're like a self-made man." He didn't say that exactly, but something along those lines.
That is true.
So he gets all of his money from his pops. He's no better than Mr. Ripley.
And he takes it sort of, he takes it, but he's ashamed of it. I think there's a line spoken by Kate Blanchett at one point where it's like she's saying to Matt Damon's, I believe he's impersonating Dickie when he's around Kate Blanchett. So she has the idea that, he's super upper class. So she's admitting to herself, when you've had money your entire life, or whatever, and that's not really, going to go anywhere, you really feel comfortable around people who also have had money their entire life and sort of feel weird about it. So it's not that, she wants to, join the masses or, fraternize with the poors. It's just that, she wants to be around other spoiled rich kids who don't like their parents. And I think that's kind of an apt description of the class circumstances in this movie.
That's facts, man.
I guess I particularly connected with the movie this time around because I had watched this after Saltburn, which you saw the last 5 minutes of, and you decided it was not for you.
What do you? What? Wait. What do you mean? I like to see Barry Cohegan dance around naked. It's awesome.
So Jake has this thing where he pronounces every actor's name wrong.
That's not true.
So to translate for the audience, that's Barry Cogan.
Is that really how they say his name?
Yep.
Good little actor, that guy.
I thought it was Keoghan, but it's definitely not Cohegan, I can tell you that.
Well, what are you gonna do?
But I think there are key differences between this and Saltburn that, make it a much smarter and just more entertaining, just better movie. And that, again, Matt Damon's character isn't immediately just a weird little, conniving freak. He sort of falls into it. And he's very, very good at it, but, he, has a certain charm to him, and there's a genuine, he wants to be part of this life, but it goes beyond just it's the poors. They always want to leech off the rich, because the rich aren't portrayed as super nice people in this movie. Saltburn is very, very light on its satire of rich people. It's really not very condemning towards them. But this one is, sort of his obsessive qualities go beyond just having more money and sort of leeching off them. So I think it draws a lot of mature commentary out of that. So you were mentioning the sort of 90s filmmaking earlier. I was wondering, could you expand on that? What do you mean by that?
I'll tell you what I mean, sir. the Tony Scott-esque score, which particularly reminded me of True Romance, maybe because it used a xylophone of some kind. You know, every 5 years or so, the studio movies that Hollywood puts out, you know, they all kind of just like feel the same. You're like, you know, like a early 2010s comedy doesn't feel the same as like a late 80s comedy. You know what I mean, man?
Sure.
So it's got some of that like post-Titanic 90s vibes. I guess another example I could feel is like Office Space. It's just like a common theme of like the late 90s I found is a theme of escape, wanting to get out of the life that they have and go somewhere, go on an adventure.
That is true. Yeah.
And I felt like there's a lot more movies from just like 1999 alone, which
Yeah.
I won't go into, but maybe the Best Picture winner.
True.
I think the 90s filmmaking is at a particular highlight during the opera scene. Right after he meets Kate Blanchett again, killed Dickie, and he's watching The Duel, which I thought was like I can't believe I'm admitting this, an Alexander Hamilton Aaron Burr. But I think it was
An
just The
opera?
Duel. Oh, I don't know, man. Dude, that happened in like the early 19th century. They could make an opera out of that.
Okay. All right.
I think that's fair.
An Italian opera.
An
Like
Italian
about
opera.
Hamilton. All right.
Who knows? Who
I'll
knows,
let it
man?
fly. I'll let it fly.
Thanks, man.
I thought the opera scene was pretty cool as well. I think there's a lot of tension there, and there's sort of a on the nose but dramatic representation in the opera scene itself of Tom Ripley's guilt over killing Dickie Greenleaf, exacerbated by the fact that he's sitting with Meredith, played by Kate Blanchett, who knows him as Dickie Greenleaf because, for whatever reason, in the moment, he decided to lie and say that he was Dickie when he met her at the station coming over to Italy.
And he thought, that's a pretty good idea. I think
Yeah.
I'm going to keep doing that.
And he keeps doing that even at the opera when inevitably, because, you know, because Meredith is a member of the elite and going to Italy, she probably knows, you know, Dickie Greenleaf and his associates at least a little bit. So Marge and Peter, who is some kind of, I guess, family friend of the Greenleafs, are also at the opera. So he's having to pretend to be Dickie, who is dead at this point. So there's obvious complication for one party, and then pretending to be essentially himself, sort of a projected version of himself for these other people. So I think that was one of the highlights for me, is just the sort of cat and mouse, the self cat and mouse kind of thing of, you know, having to avoid essentially putting Dickie and Ripley in the same place because that's not really possible.
On account of Dickie being dead.
Yeah, it's kind of an inverted detective story, which is something a genre I've really come to like.
I like the Italian guy. I wish he had more scenes.
The Italian cop.
Yeah, he was cool.
Yeah, he's like so bad at his job in a very like timely sort of way. Because I mean,
you can't outsmart Matt Damon, man.
Yeah,
I mean spoilers, but I mean he buys a zoo.
It's just like he could ask someone for like. I guess no one just carried pictures of themselves. Or just had them. I don't know, but I feel like Dickie would be the type of guy to like have like a big portrait done of him. So it's a shame that wasn't available for the inspector to sort of look at.
It's a good thing Ripley is very good at acting.
Yeah, I mean that is sort of a scary part of him. Is he tells Dickie in that one scene, I can forge signatures and impersonate just about anybody. And Dickie's like, really? And then he starts talking like his dad, and he's like, oh shit, this is scary. And like,
now that's Dickie's realest scene, because you know what? All things considered, it's pretty fucking cool. I think it happens almost right after this, but there is a scene where Matt Damon is watching Jude Law and Gwyneth Paltrow down below, and he like puts on one of Gwyneth Paltrow's rings and starts like pretending to be her.
Yeah.
They don't really expand upon that any further, but that's awesome.
No, it's freaky. The way Ripley's character is able to slip into these other roles, sort of right in front of them. And then there's another scene, I think one of the earlier scenes where Ripley goes to a jazz club with Dickie, and he starts getting up on there and singing My Funny Valentine. Matt Damon is not dubbed. He actually sang it.
Aha! I knew that from the IMDb trivia.
Oh,
Got you,
you
bitch.
looked at the trivia. You do research, I guess.
Well, that's like IMDb trivia is like the Wikipedia of research.
I didn't even look at the IMDb trivia. I was just reading
I
articles.
think during that scene it might have tipped something off because not in the middle of it, I paused it. I went to go to the can. And then I was walking, it was like 1 a.m. I was walking past my dad, rewatching Breaking Bad for the 1200th time. And he's like, "So you're watching the Talented Mr. Ripley?" And I'm like, "Yeah, how'd you know that?" And all he does is look at me dead in the eyes and say, "Matt Damon."
And you could
You
tell
know.
that when Matt Damon is pretending to be someone else. That's a real Matt Damon fan
It's
right
true.
there. Wow. You could tell it from several rooms away. That, they deserve each other, genuinely.
The blockbuster voice, man.
Yeah, no, I continue to be impressed by Matt Damon in this movie. Sort of young Matt Damon had an interesting streak in the late 90s, taking the vulnerability from and a little bit of rage from Good Will Hunting and just weaponizing it in this movie. What the movie's smart about is not going so far past the point of disbelief. You can see Dickie start to put the pieces together. Maybe he doesn't see Matt Damon murdering him coming, but he does see that, like, okay, this guy, there's really no end with this guy.
Well, to be absolutely fair, after Ripley gives him a whack, he's like, "Hey, why don't I go to a hospital or something?" But I don't think Dickie's very happy with the fact that Ripley just smacked him.
Well, yeah, but before that, you can see him putting the pieces together where he's like, okay, there's no end to what he will do to stay here in Italy. He's going to continue trying to sort of cling on to me. He has sort of obsessive things, and he's like, I didn't meet you at Yale. Like, I never saw you. Another movie they would just continue on with that, but it's like, I mean, he's so rich and privileged that he doesn't think that his demise is coming soon. He doesn't think he can actually be taken advantage of in this way. But he's like, okay, it doesn't matter at this point. But I did not know you. Like, we've come to be friends. Okay, we're cool for a while. But, after he's with one of his own, with Philip Seymour Hoffman, Freddie Miles,
Oh,
he's
thank
sort of
God!
like,
It was taking forever to mention Philip Seymour Hoffman as
Philip
Freddy.
Seymour Hoffman, what do you think of his entrance in this movie?
Oh man, when he walked in, I was like, "All right, baby, the movie's fucking getting started."
Yeah.
Philip Seymour Hoffman has so much juice. It's undeniable.
I've been spending a lot of time with Philip Seymour Hoffman in the past couple weeks, not in real life because, as we know, he tragically passed. But in the movies, I've seen all the Hunger Games movies recently. I've seen Twister, and I've seen this, and I miss him. I miss 90s Philip Seymour Hoffman, especially, was really on a roll. He had this and Magnolia, like, very quickly. They were both coming out around the same time, and they were both racking up nominations and stuff. But no, I mean, his entrance where he's coming up in the car and he's going, Dickie, or whatever the fuck he says. He's saying Italian words. He jumps out of the car, does like a little strut, and he's like looking at the woman, is like, oh my God, don't you want to fuck every woman you see just once? And he kisses, he does the European greeting to Dickie.
I did not recall Philip Seymour Hoffman saying that, and I have to say that I'm appalled. I do not agree.
He immediately gives off this kind of charming, gruff condescension, like he's hot stuff and he knows it. And you can see him immediately call bullshit on Ripley because in other series Ripley is treated as, or another adaptations, Ripley is treated as very sinister, but in this one he's kind of a cuck. He's kind of a soy boy. He's not
Kind of a soy
comfortable.
boy.
Yeah, he's not really comfortable in this environment with all these rich guys, all these hyper masculine guys, or at least people who are hiding it better, that they have some vulnerability. So he's very clearly just wants Dickie to himself, and he's kind of upset and jealous when Freddie Miles comes in, and I think that's kind of a good transition to talking about sort of the the queer aspects of the movie. I feel like this is a bigger deal than people give it credit for the late 90s. There wasn't, I guess
I will
it's the
say this
same.
right now, as a straight man. The scene with Jude Law in the bathtub and Matt Damon, very erotic.
Very,
It was the most erotic moment of my life.
yeah.
And you know what? Gotta give props to Jude Law for hanging dong.
Yeah, he does. Matt Damon almost does. Close but no cigar. Sorry.
No cigar.
But
Or you could say no
yeah,
dicky.
no, yeah. Jude Law got very tanned up for this role. He's talked about it being one of the like more fun shoots of his life that kind of like misled him about what other shoots would be like, because he
What? You're telling me that as he got to spend time in a beautiful mansion in Italy and he
Yeah.
got to walk around with Gwyneth Paltrow and Matt Damon and it wasn't a terrible time?
Yeah, apparently not. He spent a lot of time learning to play the saxophone for, I guess, like literally one scene.
You know what? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so
Take notes,
he
Jared.
learned a lot from this. Yeah, he got all tanned up, and he just fits right in, and he has a great accent. Yeah, so Jude Law did a lot of preparation, but it seems like it was fun preparation. Matt Damon lost like a ton of weight, which is interesting because I don't register him as being, I don't know, 30 pounds heavier in Good Will Hunting. But I guess they wanted
Matt Damon is just filled with mighty girth.
I guess he's a thick guy, but I guess they wanted a scrawnier, more. He's still pretty jacked in the movie. I guess they wanted a scrawnier look.
Yeah, no shit. They sent him up to Mars. You gotta be strong for that.
Send him home. Speaking of which, the bathtub scene is kind of crazy. He's like, Dickie's just such a weird character because he's okay, with his guy friend, hanging outside the bathtub playing chess. But he's not okay with like, hey, could I get in? Which I think I interpret as Matt Damon testing the waters, being like, hey, are we at this point? And then Jude Law's
Yeah.
like, no. And then he's like, well, not at the same time. And he's like, okay. And then he's comfortable with getting out completely butt-ass naked right in front of him. So I would like to officially declare that Jude Law is a cock tease in this movie.
In a weird way, it is. All jokes aside, it is a big cock measuring contest.
It
At least
literally
in Dickie's
is.
mind.
No, it's a perfect intersection of this kind of, masculine, hypermasculine thriller type stuff with, sort of more gentle, sort of queer quality to it. And that's not me talking out of my ass. That's kind of exactly what Anthony Minghella wanted to sort of do with the material that I think is really interesting. So, for the purposes of the box office, he had to market it as sort of this high octane thriller, this sort of sleek thing. But the reality is he wanted to make sort of a minor kind of hangout movie in the toxic kind of way, but kind of a hangout movie, a beautiful Italian villa.
Yeah, it's a hangout movie the same way Gone Girl's a hangout movie, you know what I mean?
But I think even Gone Girl is just a lot more aggressive. This is a weird kind of, it's not like a comforting movie exactly, but it has a sort of a weird chill vibe to it for a while, particularly the first half, where you're like, you kind of forget that he's like a con man, and that's sort of the premise of the movie. And it kind of takes you aback if you didn't know anything about it going in. You would think, oh, maybe they are gonna go on a normal sort of romance. And the director sort of talked about like, we don't want to. Obviously, people were uncomfortable at the time in the 90s with sort of open depictions of homosexuality. And he was kind of like, I don't want to contribute to the sort of Silence of the Lambs trend of like the crazy queer killer, but also he pointed out that it's kind of a prison to only have gay characters be on their best behavior in a movie. And so I think the movie's smart about not leaning too much into it. Just sort of, it's there as subtext, but it's not, as explicit as it could be.
Yeah, it's definitely not Will and Grace.
I mean, I think it's exactly like Will and Grace. Not that I've seen Will and Grace, but I
Big
don't
Will
know.
and
I was
Grace guy over
expecting a
here.
laugh
Do not
track.
let that come as a dig to Will and Grace.
I'm sure it's
I'm a
awesome.
Will and Grace fan.
But yeah, I find that quality of it really, really interesting. And just the way that in a way, Jude Law is kind of manipulating him too. It's sort of like a new toy for him. Like, oh, here's this guy. He has nothing. I think something might be up with the way he's posturing as sort of a rich guy. But he at the end of the day, it seems like he kind of likes dressing him up and taking him to all these places. He sort of likes the illusion until he's bored of it, and that
Yeah, it kind
you
of
were
reminds me of
mentioning that
Logan
line.
Paul.
Say again.
Kind of reminds me of Logan Paul.
You think that he would take a video in the Suicide Forest? That's the Dickie Greenleaf vibe.
If Dickie Greenleaf had a cell phone, he would be unstoppable. He would be the most annoying guy of them.
Yeah, you seem to really hate Dickie Greenleaf. I'd like you to talk about the boat scene before the obvious like hitting him with the oar, because I can speak a little trivia about that. But sort of how he's treating Dickie, or how he's treating Tom Ripley in the moment.
He's got some pent up rage, and for good reason. But if I were in his situation, if I was Dickie Greenleaf, I wouldn't want to do that on a boat. Would not want to do it in the middle of the ocean.
You wouldn't wanna, say to your bestie, "Hey, bud, not gonna work out. I'm sending you home."
You're boring.
Yeah, you just, and it's such a simple line, but it kind of brings out that sort of cocky quality.
You're not as fun as Philip Seymour Hoffman and my wife, who I pay attention to like once a week.
Yeah, it's
and I'm
so.
cheating on actively. I
Gwyneth
did it yesterday.
Paltrow's character is sort of an interesting equation in the mix. I wonder how you feel about her. I found her a lot more interesting this viewing than I did the first time. I actually think again, this might second best Gwyneth Paltrow performance, I think. Behind the
She's in a
Rose.
tough situation, man.
Yeah, you
She's
can
got a
see
lot
it
of
really.
different people telling her different stuff.
Yeah, and she doesn't really know what to think, and she's not dumb. It's sort of, she's
At
caught
one
between
point
two
she's
worlds.
like, "Wait a fucking second!" When he starts bleeding. No, it's when she finds Dickie's ring.
Well, yeah. Oh man, that's after the boat scene. We will get to that. But the boat scene, which we kind of began the podcast talking about, because it is a memorable scene. One thing that I did not know going in, a couple things. You'll notice when he hits him with the oar at first, you don't think that's like the super brutal kill that they're going for, but they had the sort of effect set up that it would like slowly start to peel away his face, and the reason for that is that they sort of want it to be like gradually. Okay, first Jude Law, it's like the death of his beautiful sort of manicured face or whatever.
Yeah, get covered in blood, bitch.
Yeah, and then the rest of them will die, and so he kind of looks like fucking Harvey Dent in The Dark Knight for a while when they're sort of struggling. So it's supposed to be this like slow moment of shock of like, oh shit, this has gotten real. This isn't just self-defense. This is like, this guy, they're really in the heat of the moment there. Another thing, Matt Damon accidentally broke Jude Law's rib during the filming of the scene.
I saw that. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Just the power of Matt Damon.
I guess so.
20, 30 pounds down.
From what I understand, the oar was made of rubber. At least there was one take where it was made of rubber. So the oar part was safe, but the boat was real and it was made of real wood. So when he hit him and he fell down, he broke his rib. I'm not sure if that's the take where he did that, though it might well have been, because everything I've read about the production of the movie, despite it, Jude Law reflecting well on it, there was a lot of rain, and they had a limited time to shoot. So they were doing very short shoots, like sometimes just like 3 lines, and they would have to go in for cover and go back. Yeah, I think the cast was very game for sort of a relatively low budget.
I think
shoot
I wouldn't say we have all of them at the top of their game. I think Philip Seymour Hoffman got better and better as he just kept on getting older, but we have a lot of people in their prime. Gwyneth Paltrow, I think, is definitely in her prime here.
Yeah, late 90s,
Cate
early
Blanchett's
2000s.
just like always in her prime. Cate Blanchett, I have not seen a single bad Cate Blanchett performance. If you can find me one, point it in the direction. I'd be interested to see.
Thor Ragnarok.
That's not a real movie. You're making that up. Who's in that?
Yep.
You
They've
should have
been
included it.
together a couple times.
Do you think it costs under $50 million?
I do not think so. But that's
Man.
this movie cost $37 million, which for the time and for, shooting on the coast, this type of movie is I guess not a lot. I mean, adjusted for inflation would be more, but I don't know. They get a lot of mileage out of the budget and out of sort of these tight shoots they were doing, and it looks really good. I think it's a great looking movie. I think the cinematography is very subtle when it needs to be, but it has sort of more kinetic moments when Matt Damon's starting to lose his mind and the guilt is sort of weighing on him, and he's having these kind of hallucinatory moments. So I guess getting into the second half of the movie, we were talking about the ring scene with Gwyneth Paltrow. I really, really like that scene. I think that's a great beat for her. And Matt Damon is just struggling to keep up the facade, keep lying, because at this point he's already killed off Freddie Miles. So he plays it as well as he can, sort of Weekend at Bernie's-ing him, pretending like he's drunk to the
There's a
car.
detail later in the movie with like the guy that he sees and like gives a thumbs up to. That guy was like kidnapping that woman.
Yeah, I didn't even really notice that.
Really is like Weekend at Bernie's.
Yeah, just like they were gonna do to Joe Biden for the race. There, I found the connection. Weekend at Biden's.
Weekend at Biden's.
But
coming 2027 by Oliver Stone.
Yeah, dude, if he released a movie called that, I would be so game. But
dude, if any Biden movie came out, you'd be game.
Absolutely. Who the hell would play him? Matt Damon. Matt Damon should play him.
Get Jim Carrey back.
Oh boy. No, but the ring moment is where you can tell that Cate Blanchett has completely lost her faith. Because she really likes
Cate Blanchett completely lost her faith.
Oh,
jeez,
I
she
meant
was off
Gwyneth
in the room
Paltrow.
smoking somewhere.
I meant Gwyneth Paltrow. Easy to mix them up. You know why it's easy to mix them up? Because their first names start with the same letter and they have the exact same haircut. They're mirror images of each other. Is your mind blown? That's how I interpret it. The scene with the ring, I feel like that's sort of the end of the line for how much Marge can sort of tolerate Ripley's stuff. Because at first, Ripley,
was it the cock? Was it the cock flash, or was it the blood in the pocket?
I'd say the blood in the pocket was definitely the nail in the coffin. And just the way he's stepping towards her, he's very good at improvising that moment because you can tell that he's about to kill her, and then Peter. So Peter shows up and he kind of is on his best behavior again, and you can see just I don't know each character's relationship to each other. I think it's a very well cast movie, and I think there's so many interesting little dynamics that the movie kind of explores in their full. So Marge sort of has a kinship with Ripley because she knows that Dickie has been neglecting her. She doesn't maybe know that he's cheating on her, but so he sort of relates to Ripley about Dickie's lavish lifestyle and how he's leaving her in the dust. And then Marge has a sort of kinship with Peter after Dickie's out of the picture. Obviously, Tom kind of swoops in to be with Peter, sort of his replacement for Dickie. And so it all kind of concludes, and you think the movie's over, and then it's like it doesn't end the way that you might expect another thriller with, Ripley sort of, finally being found out, and they put behind bars. Yay, the heroes win. Because Dickie's father sort of makes a deal with the police to just sort of go with Ripley's story. Not really out of necessarily love for Ripley, desire to bend the truth to how he sees fit, and it's sort of a commentary on just the ways that wealth can kind of get involved in actual justice. And then we sort of have this epilogue on the boat, which I'm curious to know your thoughts on, like the way that's sort of filmed. And just a refresher, he ends up going on a trip with Peter, who completely trusts him, I guess, and doesn't care about Marge. And they're sort of implied to be together. He runs into Kate Blanchett and kisses her. I guess that version of himself is kind of straight. That image of himself that he's playing is Dickie. So it's sort of a fluid
I don't even think.
kind of thing.
I don't think he's like straight or bi or anything. I think he loves the feeling of affection from anybody.
Yeah.
He's kind of the same as Dickie.
No, absolutely. I think it's like anyone who will give him attention. Anyone will give him that sense of freedom.
That's what
He's
makes him
never really
tick.
himself.
He wasn't even very happy about killing Peter, if you remember.
No. Yeah, that's what I'm curious to know your thoughts on the way that part is executed. The last few lines are like things I like about Ripley, because Ripley is very insecure, so he sort of asks.
It's very bare bones of why Ripley keeps going. He's like, he doesn't want to get rid of Peter, but he saw too much. It wasn't the same as like Philip Seymour Hoffman, where he's just like didn't even like him to begin with. Or Dickie, where he was like he had no other choice because he was on top of him strangling him or before that.
Right.
But
so this is his first, like, it's not like premeditated, but it's like very intentional. Like this is a strategic move. Like, oh,
this is his strategic move. It's premeditated murder, but he's
yeah.
not happy about it. But in his own psychotic mind, he's got to do it. You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah. So I mean, I think it's interesting, the sort of ego insecurity where he's like, name all the great things about me, and then finally Peter's like, Dickie is blah blah blah, Dickie is blah blah blah, Dickie is crushing me, and then he starts choking, and then you can just
Dickie is
hear.
crushing me. Jude Law's back.
Oh, did I say Dickie again? Man, it is so easy to get Dickie and Tom Ripley confused.
What can you say? Matt Damon just really blurs the line like Robin Thicke, man.
That's a crazy line.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, so yeah, he eventually has to choke him, and you just hear Matt Damon crying. I can only think of the scene in Good Will Hunting. I don't know, where he's like crying in Robin Williams's arms. He kind of has that similar pain, but it's because he killed someone, not because he was abused by his dad.
It's very early in his career to see vulnerable Damon.
Yeah. I think it's interesting compared with Family Damon. Real quick wrap up Ripley here, and then get on to the real movie, We Bought a Zoo, which is a crazy transition. Part of why we picked it. But I guess just wrapping up Ripley, I really enjoy how it's executed. I think there's a lot going on that I didn't even get into. I took like pages of notes, but now is the moment of truth. Let's see if I can guess the Jake rating. For those not in the know, I have an encyclopedic knowledge of Jake's ratings for movies. I obsessively stalk his letterbox.
I've seen like 60 movies. I know.
Yeah, he's seen, I don't know, what have you seen, like 2,000 movies, something like that.
No, it's more like in the range like 39, 40.
And this is one of them. It's this, and We Bought a Zoo.
This is one of them.
Right.
The last movie I saw before this was Click.
But I don't know. I usually predict Jake ratings for movies before I see them. Okay, so you said you were caught between two ratings, which is more information than I wanted at the time. I know you liked it, so we're gonna go above a 5 out of 10. I think you're in between a 7 and an 8, and that's my take. I'll give reasoning, and then you'll reveal. I think you didn't have as much to say on this one. I think you have sort of notions about dated aspects of 90s filmmaking. I think there's a lot of elegant stuff in this movie, but it's not the kind of thing that they would do today. It's not filmed like other thrillers, but it might have thrown you off. It is a longer movie. I personally like the length of it. I think it's nice that it keeps you in that dread, but I can understand someone being like, okay, is this like a fourth act at the end here? It's definitely not always the most fun movie to watch. Kind of a downer. And, you may not be used to seeing Matt Damon. I guess, besides The Departed, maybe, but even then, it's a different kind of role. So that's my justification. I think you're in between a 7 or 8. Let's hear Jake rating. Talk your shit.
It's a fun movie. I had fun watching it. It's Craziest thing in the world, between a 6 and a 7. See me?
Oh, man. Oh, dog. I'm devastated.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. Next step from Rec will be stronger. I will say, it's a grower. I had a second viewing, so not completely
Yeah, who
fair.
knows? Most
more
of
to
my
absorb.
10s began as 7s, so.
And guess
fucking
what?
right.
That's what my rating is. It's a 10 for me. I
10
have
out of
no
10
real.
for Ephram?
Yep, new 10. Started out as an 8. Now it's a 10. I have no real gripes with it. I think everything it's in its place. It's just, I don't know. It makes you look for it. It's not a thriller that throws out all its cards on the first viewing or at all. There's a lot of great sneaky little lines. It's a sneaky little movie, just like the protagonist.
I do not mean this as a diss, but this is a cable movie. It's a movie I put on when it's on cable.
I think so.
Which
Right.
is fun. I like movies built on details. Those are fun.
You know what's really built on details? A zoo.
What?
A zoo.
A
you gotta
zoo?
you gotta really know your stuff to run a zoo.
I mean, I can imagine running a zoo is very expensive.
I really wish there was a movie about how hard it is to run a zoo.
And you know what? I wish there was a movie that could show me how to cope with my dead wife and my stupid bitch son.
So, if you didn't know, we're talking about 2011's We Bought a Zoo.
By Cameron Crowe.
Right.
It's
Cameron
an
Crowe.
incredible picture. It's an incredible, incredible picture. Sometimes you just need to sit back and observe. Enjoy the purity of life. And I think We Bought a Zoo captures the purity of life in a very great way. It is a white mom movie. I will not deny that. Your mom will have a fantastic time watching it.
And hey, white moms sometimes have it right. Look at
But you know what? Maybe in the end, the zoo is the American family unit.
This one is all about family, okay? You got Matt Damon. His wife died before.
Of an unknown disease. I think probably cancer. It's alluded to.
Yeah. His name is Benjamin Mee.
Awesome name. I looked it up. It's the real guy's name.
Yep.
It's not like a fake name or anything.
Nope. Completely real. You really connect with him. You can say, that's literally me. Because it literally is me.
Because, Matt Damon could pull off any type of character, man. He could be killing Jude Law 1 second. Next day, Dad! Dad, you're jumping over a fence and landing in the sticks? Aw, jeez! Matt Damon does some very funny things in this movie. Don't get it confused. We Bought a Zoo is a laugh riot. When Matt Damon's driving the car with his son and they're like arguing, and the big bear comes walking by, it's like, that's the bear from the zoo. How'd it get out?
Jeez. Yeah, in the beginning, you have a sort of stern, scary Matt Damon. He's a big boy. You think he might be able to hurt you because
he's a writer
mad.
for a newspaper.
Ooh, yeah, and he's a little mad because his stupid bitch son Dylan got expelled from school. Fucking.
And I would like to say, Dylan is a little rascal, but his art mural was actually pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay, so he gets
the
expelled
other one
from
sucked.
school. Yeah. No, I gotta defend him on that one. His son gets in trouble for stealing. And he just sort of seems to like it. There's not, I guess maybe it's like a grief reaction.
Yeah, he just says, hey, I mean, the cash was right there. What am I supposed to do? It was telling me to. What am I gonna do?
That kid's performance is Oscar-worthy. And he does a little mural, and it's a little bit emo. It's a little bit dark. Which I love how the school chose to put it up anyway.
We would like to clarify, this movie is 2011, so get your DSs up and get your Flow Rider playlist going, because that is the vibe we're going for here. But
besides the soundtrack,
we'll throw in Cat Stevens and Bob Dylan in there every once in a while just to throw you off.
I was surprised there was no DS. I mean, it is a very 2011 movie, but I don't know. It could have used more dated references.
I like when movies are relics of their time. I like that it's a movie that reminds me of 2011. I don't know if you remember 2011. Great year.
Great year.
6-year-old me was smoking crack and watching Tree of Life in theaters. It was a great time.
Really?
I had a very troubled childhood. It's not that funny.
Well, who also has a troubled childhood? Dylan. See,
oh man,
he drew that mural, which is, I think it's funny that the school put it up anyway.
They put it up anyway because that's how you know they're like, okay, well this is
okay. He has the juice. This might be a Banksy. let's put this picture of a guy who's like getting decapitated for my memory up alongside all these like rainbows and stuff.
We bought a zoo.
You know what? And I think it went hard. It went hard. Ultimately, not a big deal. Stealing is cool.
And the next thing I'd like to mention is, I don't know what you name this type of character, but the only example not the only example, but the biggest example in my head, I'll say. But Thomas Hayden Church basically plays the role that Bill Murray does in Tootsie, where he's just kind of like, he kind of adds to the plot, but most of the time he's like on side going, what the fuck are you doing? What are you doing?
It's always convenient to have a brother character who's an accountant, the exact thing that Matt Damon struggles with.
Hey, this happened in real life, so.
I'm not sure that this part happened in real life. The guy says that this movie is about like 50% accurate.
Well,
I mean,
I think the other 50% is probably when the bear got out. And
well,
the dude got locked in the cage.
There was I think the real story was actually crazier. I think it's like two animals got into a fight or something, broke out of the cage.
Awesome.
So
I'll tell you the most unrealistic part: the fact that Ellie Fanning would like that fucking mopey loser.
we will get to that. But yeah, the real guy is, I believe, Australian, and the real zoo is in England. So they decided to. Cameron Crowe was really dead set on Matt Damon. He had to convince him to do it, and apparently, he sent him a soundtrack along with the movie to convince him to do it. And then Matt Damon was like, "Okay." Matt Damon never really talks about this movie.
It's funny because this seems like a weirdly personal movie.
I guess, but it's like, it's so not. I don't think Cameron Crowe owns a zoo.
I know it's not
It's
but
nutty.
it seems like it's made by somebody like in their late 50s who's been through a certain thing, going through a phase, like what
I
Matt
guess
Damon's
so.
already talked about, the adventure.
Yeah.
I
guess you
hate
could
to
say
be
that.
the Office Space Fight Club guy, but bored of their life and noticing the change after,
We found another connection. Talented Mr. Ripley's worst case scenario, we bought a zoo.
I have it
although
in my head as, this is still Ripley. Just, now he has a
he's
dead
grown up,
wife.
he's left his past behind. He's not murdering anybody, he's just buying a zoo.
I also think this movie tackles a topic that, it's not in movies a lot, but this one's tackled pretty gracefully. Coming to terms with losing a pet. It's not fun. It sucks. It's not cool.
Oh.
Matt Damon's in denial for a while, and, he kicks over a barrel.
Losing a pet or losing a wife?
Oh, no, losing a pet. He loses the tiger.
Oh, yeah.
The tiger.
That's true.
Sparky.
That's true.
He gets kind of emotional about it. He's kind of sad.
That does suck. Have you owned a tiger before?
I did have a tiger. I had to put him down. It killed an old lady.
Well, did she have it coming though?
No. She was actually quite nice.
Wow. I'm sorry, man.
I am sorry, Mrs. Banks.
Like Mr. Banks? Like Saving Mr. Banks?
No relation to Saving Mr. Banks.
Okay. Thank God. Funny detail from the beginning of this movie, besides the fact that the school put the mural up, they wind up moving in this film, and you would think, oh, it's because their old home reminds them of the dead wife, and that's what the Wikipedia summary is. But it's actually because the neighbors were just too darn loud. Like, that's actually literally the instigating event. That's really why he looks for a new house.
That's right. I completely forgot that in the first 15 minutes, there's like a little side thing where Matt Damon's like, all these women keep hitting on me.
Oh my God, we didn't even talk about that. Oh fuck, I wasn't even talking about that. Yeah, that's hilarious.
Yeah, because I think he looks out the window and he sees one of the women who's hitting on him earlier while they're partying. He's like,
oh no, dog. So I guess he's not ready to move on, but it's funny that he keeps being offered a crazy detail that definitely did not happen in real life. Like,
he needs a Manic Pixie's zookeeper.
Yeah, there are a lot of like sort of. I mean, it's not really a vanity project for Matt Damon because he didn't really want to do it at first. But
wait,
a lot of
he
movies,
didn't want to do We Bought a Zoo?
he was convinced into doing it, but it wasn't like something he was like, yes, I'll do that.
We Bought a Zoo. Yeah.
But when you get to this caliber of star, there are a lot of movies during this time that have this weird subplot. I just watched the Adam Sandler post 9/11 movie, Rain Over Me. That one, there's a subplot of like he gets sexually harassed by a woman, but he likes it or something. And then this one, it's like, oh, I guess they're all just jumping on top of me after my wife dies. And it's sort of a weird, I don't know. It's like no judgment is cast on the woman, but it's also sort of a weird, it's a weird form of flattery, I guess. And they
Eat
keep
my
making him
lasagna and
lasagna.
sleep with me, please.
Yeah, they keep making him lasagna, but I'm like, dude, that did not happen in real life. He's a
Well, no
fridge
shit. In
full of
real life, the
lasagna.
guy wasn't Matt Damon.
That's so true. He doesn't have the looks. So that's an interesting detail that they put in there.
I looked this up. There's there's a line in the movie where like, you're much more handsome than the other dads. They're all bald. And I
Yep.
looked up the real guy and he was fucking bald.
So it's like, this is crazy wish fulfillment. You can buy a zoo and you can look as good as Matt Damon in his 30s. Or 40s. I don't know how old he is.
I don't know how old Matt Damon is in this.
Matt Damon, age 2011. Let's look this up. He was
Check the
40.
facts.
41.
41.
Yep. So it's.
I love that it had the 80s trope of, we need to save the zoo. We
Yep.
have a bar and we don't want oh man, the fucking inspector. Let's talk about that guy.
Yeah, I feel like this part of the movie is indeed real, where it's like the house comes with the stipulation that you will upkeep the zoo, you'll keep everyone on.
Oh my god, I
and you
forgot
have
they
to get
brought
inspected.
JB Smoove in just to say it's a zoo.
That's in the trailer, man. It's awesome.
Fucking Leon, man.
Yeah. Far From Home guy.
No.
That's what I'm gonna call him to just get your goat a little.
You know what? I have seen those movies. Do not remember him in those.
It's probably for the best. But yeah, I mean, it comes with a stipulation that, hey, you're gonna run this zoo. If you don't, all these animals will fucking die. So really, there's a lot at stake in this movie. Possibly even more than Talented Mr. Ripley.
I love
Talented
that.
Mr. Ripley was playing in the kiddie pool. This is the real stuff.
I love that when they were pulling up to the house, they did not notice.
Yeah, they conveniently missed that part, I guess. I mean,
Hey,
it's
what
kind
are
of
all these animals? What's that tiger doing out there?
I mean, I guess it's sort of a rundown zoo. It's looking like Tiger King before the fame. It's not its best. There's a depressed bear. It's on a lot of meds. It's like that's real as hell, honestly. He's just kind of laying there.
Sparky.
That tiger's nearing death.
There's a
Spoilers.
bear named Buster and a tiger named Sparky, and I had 2 pets by those names. So it's like, whoa.
Great.
Well, they're dead.
Maybe your parents saw this heartwarming family film.
I tried to get my mom to watch this with me, but when I texted her, she said, "Are you fucking kidding me?"
So, I mean, not everyone's parents can be cool. So,
Not everyone can buy a zoo.
Sometimes we need to distance ourselves, I think, from the people who raised us, because we bought a zoo.
If you're in between the ages of 20 and 35, and your social group is not discussing we bought a zoo,
You're probably bound for failure, for being real.
that's just facts, man.
So yeah, he winds up. Spoilers. He winds up buying the zoo because he wants that fresh start, and his daughter really likes it. She's playing with the peacocks.
Because she's not a fucking loser, and she realizes, oh shit, I live at a fucking zoo.
We have like 2 quintessential child performances here. We have the bratty guy who's like, I don't like anything, dude.
Oh,
like
dude,
yelling.
dude. That reminds me. There's a great scene when Scarlett Johansson is like introducing the crew, and everyone's standing there, and the kid's just like, ugh. He's just like, looking to the side. I hate it here. I don't want to be here. But even though she was standing there the whole time, they point out Ellie Fanning, and he's like, wait, girl?
No, it's great. You have 2 love interests. You got ScarJo for Matt. You got Elle Fanning for a little Poindexter there. It's perfect. It's beautiful. You can meet everyone you want to on a zoo.
They even meet in the rain. It's amazing.
Oh, it's so romantic. They just hug though. No kissing, because that's gross. Give you cooties.
At the end, I think she gets the closing line. No, she gets the closing line kind of. She's like, "What's better, animals or people?" And then they don't say anything. And then they're like, "People."
Oh, doesn't it give you the warm and fuzzies inside? Oh.
No, I was about to say that I disagree with.
You like animals?
That's fucking.
I do think it's it's a funny message. Oh, you should take care of the animals. Mostly, though, I think it's like, people, much better than animals. Fucking kill the tiger if you need to.
I appreciate it taking the final scene to show that he has not gotten over the death of his wife.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of cool, sad slideshows, so.
Hey, it teases the slideshow earlier on, but he fucking slams the computer shut and the music cuts.
It's like, was that his arc, that he needs to look at the slideshow? I honestly thought that
He needs
the
to
movie was...
He needs to stop trying to forget about it and move past it. He needs to embrace the life they lived, man.
I guess so. I thought he was gonna delete it, honestly. I thought that would have been funny.
That would have been pretty funny.
Yeah. Fuck him. ScarJo's awesome. I love the fucking bear. Who needs my ex-wife? But he's really motivated by the fact that his daughter loves this zoo. It's another quintessential child performance. Polar opposite. This trope of, like, young, manic pixie, I guess 7-year-old, who's just really
manic pixie 7-year-old?
Yeah,
Easy there, Drake.
She's wide-eyed, and she's more wise than the adults in the room. But she's, talking a little...
But she is not very happy when she overhears that the Easter Bunny is not real.
Yeah, doesn't that happen in, like, a serious scene?
That happens at the end of a very serious scene.
I forgot. Is that his argument with the son? Because we gotta talk about that.
Yes.
That is probably the funniest scene in the movie. It's one that Jimmy Kimmel poked a little fun at.
The thing about Matt is you can see how hard he's working. It's so effortful for him.
It's a good dream! And it's got cool animals in it and some pretty great people, too!
I have goosebumps. I've seen it 100 times. I still have goosebumps.
We bought a zoo.
No, you know what? It's a good scene. I love that he says, I can force my dream on you. Cool animals!
Because it's got cool animals and some great people, too.
And you know what? Is he fucking wrong?
I guess not. I also love how he's like, I'm sorry your friends wouldn't come. I called up all of them. They hate you. They hate your ass.
Yeah, your friends fucking suck. It's probably because you're a mopey loser.
You got no bitches, no friends. We're staying on the zoo.
There's one part in the movie that I know was made up. It's like, you got kicked out of school for moping? It's awesome.
He says he has school, but it never actually shows him enrolling his kid in a new school. Is he just like, what fucking time of year was this? I think they
it was
gave him
in
a time
June
frame.
because they opened the zoo
all of
on
it's during the summer.
7/7, baby. It's like the whole thing. So it's like the end of June, beginning of summer.
But I think it took more than a month, didn't it?
I don't know, man. I'm not a fucking zoologist.
Then I feel like there's like a throwaway line about his son having school. I'm like, okay, are you catching up? What are you doing? Are you gonna go to school? And
we bought a zoo.
Yeah, I guess his whole life is a zoo. It's like, what do you need? You just need, elf.
You need this. Look at this draft.
It's great. I mean, here's the question: Would you consider living in a zoo?
Living on a zoo would be cool. But all I can think of is when Matt Damon hears how much it is to upkeep the zoo, and he walks away, looks like he's about to cry, gets really angry, punches the wall, and kicks over a barrel, and comes back and says, let's do it.
It could have been worse. He could have kicked a snake like the kid did.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
That's a fucking crazy part. That's what got PETA like,
There was like a million fucking snakes.
And he let him out in the first place, and he kicked one.
Baller, man.
Yeah, it's I think that's one of the things that the real Benjamin Meat took issue with. I'm like, why are we kicking a snake?
Hey, why is that mopey little douchebag kicking a snake?
It's a little odd. I think he accidentally gets good advice from his dad, I guess, about going with Elle Fanning. All it takes is 20 seconds of courage.
And there's a little detail later on where it shows that he got that advice from Thomas Hayden Church.
Oh, shit. That's true. It's actually true.
Everything comes together in the end of this movie. There's not a wasted line, which I do commend. It is a tight screenplay, which I like.
Oh my god.
It's a Nancy Meyers-esque screenplay.
Really?
Can I say it? Can I say it?
I mean, I guess I'll let you say it.
It's a good movie. I mean, it's We Bought a Zoo, and there's still, like, the little girl screaming, it's a snake farm! But, like, it's good.
That was awesome. But, there was a lot of tension in this movie. because the inspector's gonna come, and he's played by John Michael Higgins, who I recognize from a couple things. I think he was in.
He comes out with his huge ruler.
Yeah, and there's that part where they whip out their notepads, which as a note taker myself, I was like, oh yeah, this is real.
Very funny Sergio Leone pastiche when they fucking whip out. The camera just like does like a quick zoom out. They have their, and they whip him out.
He's really the only like villain or antagonistic force in the movie. Just
I like in the ending where the little girl calls him a dick, and he's just like, "Oh, okay,
hey,
here's your zoo."
That's pretty cool. I'm saying yes to this zoo.
Hey, this little girl got guts. I like her. You can have the zoo.
Like it.
I heard a little bit of detail that Cameron Crowe didn't want the girl to say dick because, he didn't want to teach her the word dick because, that's irresponsible, bro. But her mom said,
that's pretty cool.
Her mom said, hey, she has an uncle dick. And then she's like, oh, it's like you're talking to your uncle. And then he found out there's no uncle dick.
That's great. That's actually a cool piece of trivia.
We bought his...
So yeah, I mean, you got that subplot, but it's mostly... It's a true hangout movie. Talented Mr. Ripley was a hangout movie with a little too much sauce. This one we're not as in the sauce.
There's various amounts of hangout movies. Licorice Pizza with the boys, fucking Office Space with your dad. We Bought a Zoo with your ma.
It's a very traditional family movie. I can presume that Matt Damon and ScarJo have a future after this movie. Apparently, though, Matt Damon did not enjoy the kiss scene. Not because ScarJo's ugly or anything, but ScarJo decided to eat an onion sandwich before doing the smooch.
That's a good bit.
They had started doing the kiss scene. They broke for lunch. I remember, like, Cameron Crowe's like, hey, we got to get it again. Then ScarJo's like, oh, shit. I just ate an onion sandwich.
Or do you think Scarlett Johansson's like, oh, fuck. Hang on 1 second, guys. Nom, 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 nom.
I mean,
Yummy.
Me personally, as an onion hater, I just can't imagine an onion sandwich. I hope that's not literal. I hope it's not.
You never had a good onion ring in your life, Ephram?
I love onion rings, but the idea of an onion sandwich, I really hope that's not literal. Like 2 pieces of bread, just like singular. I don't know, more than an onion. But ugh, I don't want to throw up on the pod. Ugh. Sorry.
What's your big takeaway from We Bought a Zoo, Ephram Oliver?
My big takeaway. I mean, I think my takeaway combined is that Matt Damon's, more of a chameleon. People give him credit for,
I mean, he could kill a guy, he could buy a zoo, he can go to Mars.
He can really do anything. Really do anything.
Except to admit his love for Ben Affleck, who I've been trying to not mention this entire time.
Matt Damon actually did an interview around when Talented Mr. Ripley came out for like I think a queer magazine. I think it was called The Advocate, where he was like, I refuse to dispel the rumors that me and Matt Damon are. He didn't say, no, we aren't fucking, but he didn't say we are either.
It's because we all know. We all know.
We all know that happened probably once, at least.
It was a hot night in Rio de Janeiro.
What I do think is I'm not the biggest Cameron Crowe guy in the world. I do think there are some kind of... I think the biggest fault of the movie... It does become a meme, but I think it's just like the soundtrack is like aggressive. Not like, I mean, you're talking about the sort of out of nowhere kind of cool needle drops, but
no, wait, there was only 2. There was like 2. I'm talking about the Bob Dylan one from Blood on the Track and the song from like Harold and Maude, I think.
Yeah, because they briefly make a joke. They're really only a couple like jokes in the movie. It's just kind of like a lightly amusing movie, not as rambunctious as you would expect a movie with animals or anything to be. It's no Zookeeper, but there's a joke that the Dylan character was named after Bob Dylan, and he's like, no, I was named after, I don't know, some other family member.
I was named after a dog.
Oh yeah, he was named after a dog. So that part was crazy to me. But I would say the biggest drawback for me is that score is just like, it so wants you to think that every scene is inspiring and wholesome and amazing and the best thing you've ever seen. And
but
it kind of takes me out of it.
Inspiring and wholesome and the best thing I've ever seen.
I did not expect Jake to be more positive on We Bought a Zoo than me.
It's a good movie.
This is nuts. So yeah, I mean, it's not a whole lot of controversy in the movie. Probably no one really thought about it until the memes kind of rolling in because it's just one of the most iconic titles ever.
Great title. Great title. I
Very
only watched the
straightforward.
movie to call his bluff, but I ended up with a happy surprise.
I mean, that's what the book it's named after. It's based on is called, and they thought, nope, that's a winner. It's a description of what happens. That's real as hell, and I respect that. This is the kind of thing doesn't really get made anymore, and it made 120 million. So
what would you
that
rate
part
this
is true.
movie, man?
What would I rate this?
What would you rate this?
Boy, I mean that's a tough thing. It's a hard movie to hate. On the other hand, I can't say that it really got me going, and I am a bit of a sap. So for me, it's a 5 out of 10. I think 5 out of 10 with a heart, maybe. I guess I'd like to guess the Jake rating. I think the funniest thing is that you definitely had more to say about this than you did to say about Ripley. You seem to enjoy it more than me, but that's also you're nicer to movies on the lower end of the spectrum. So I'm gonna guess 6 out of 10.
Well, with We Bought a Zoo, it's a perfect movie. There's no flaws with it. And I can really not think of a single negative thing to say. So I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10.
Yeah.
It is in the same category as Marry Me with Jennifer Lopez.
Whoa. Hold on there, Pilgrim.
Oh, it's not as good. It's not as lit as that. That movie is more lit.
Marry Me for me is a 7. I think that's more fun. I thought it was a little less hokey, a little less like, oh, let's telegraph every emotional moment right now. It's a bit more surprising.
So I'm gonna keep it as a heart with no rating because I think that's funny.
It is very funny. Wait, which movie do you prefer?
Saltburn.
Saltburn. That wasn't one of the movies we watched though.
Wait, that wasn't Matt Damon at the end dancing in the... Oh, I gotta check my cards. If I had to pick one movie, it's Talented Mr. Ripley. I mean, yeah.
Yeah! There's my Dean scream for the episode.
And then we're going to Washington, D.C. to take back the White House! Yeah!
I mean, it's We Bought a Zoo, but, like, it's We Bought a Zoo. You know what I mean?
I just think once you've seen him by the zoo, you're like, okay, I saw what I needed to see. Talented Mr. Ripley.
Well. I could have gone with more cool animals.
Talented Mr. Ripley, you're like, how is he so talented? Let's go back on a second watch. Let's see where that talent really comes in. Because
in the next episode, we will be watching Talented Mr. Ripley and We Bought a Zoo again. This podcast is dedicated to only Talented Mr. Ripley and We Bought a Zoo.
What would be a good thing to do on future podcasts is at the end of it, we should probably have the next episode's movies decided.
Yeah, keep them on their seats, man.
Okay. But you will be selecting next time.
Do I get to select 2?
I think so. I think I put you through these. Although I will say this was an hour and 40 minutes. So take that as you will.
Well, until next time, guys. I'm Jake.
And I'm also Jake.
Wait, what are you talking about?